Hey everybody, I'm back with another support. Oh, excuse me. I wanted to show my my Chinese New Year hood. Okay, but I don't want to scare anyone. Like, you look like an executioner there. So I'm back with another support tip, and this one I think I've seen a few people asking questions about this on Facebook. Over the last months and months, and then there was just a recent thread about it again. How to support teeth or fangs on models. And as we know, one of the most important parts on any model that has an open mouth, the teeth, the fangs are usually some kind of focal point, especially if you have an incredible sculpt like this dragon or sea serpent. From my Wukong Kickstarter, actually, the whole sculpt is magnificent, yes, but always on a dragon, especially open mouth, or even on smaller characters with the open mouth, if they have fangs, to me the fangs are always a focal point. And you really want the teeth to come out pristine, whether it's a lion, a bear, anything like that, even a dragonborn. And how do you get these teeth, right? How do you get these teeth to come out perfect is the question. And that's what I'm going to answer for you today. So I'm going to show you how to do it. We're going to go into Chitubox and show you. But it works in Lychee just as well, because the principles of how to support the teeth and fangs to make them come out perfect applies to any slicer you use, because it just has to do with supports and weight and gravity and suction as usual. So I don't want to waste too much time, but if you want your models to come out with teeth, I mean, these teeth are absolutely perfect. Let me show you a close-up high-res photo of this dragon, and then let's zoom in on those fangs, the all-important fangs. And then let's go into Chitubox. Let me show you exactly how I did it, so you can do it yourself, and hopefully you'll all be printing perfect teeth very shortly. So stick with me for just a couple of minutes while I show you how to do this, and hope this helps you guys out. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, and here's the model with no supports after you saw it with all the supports. And we'll just do one or two teeth just so you can see clearly, and we make it nice and fast. So what we're going to do here is on our lights, I'm going to set contact depth to 0.1, upper diameter 0.15. On the mediums, I'm just going to raise that to 0.25. On the heavies, I'm going a little more on the contact depth to 0.15, and the upper diameter 40. So let's start off with, say, one of the bigger teeth. Okay, let's drop a 40 and see what it looks like. Okay. It is. So what I want to do is, in the past, I would have kind of done a bigger one here and then hope it would support the weight. Because I don't want to, if you do too big, it kind of breaks the tip of the tooth off. If you do too small, you get that flat tooth, which is terrible. So let's just do, since we're doing two teeth, let's just do the one next to it as well. So this size, to me, I want to do a size that meets basically the whole starting area. So let me move this out of the way. So the starting area is basically this area here, I consider. So that's the size I want. Now, this by itself, oops, let me get rid of this. This by itself may or may not support these teeth. It most likely won't. If I just want to do the standard way of supporting, which is to put one at the bottom, I would need to probably make this one, would probably need to be, let's see, it would probably need to be like a 0.6. This might actually hold that tooth, might or might not, but we're not going to do that. We want our teeth to come out, pointier, the way that artists sculpted them. On smaller teeth, you do the same thing. So if this tooth was a lot smaller, instead of 0.4, maybe I'd be down to 0.1 even, or 0.15. We'll look at, we'll also do this one as well. So let's do that. So what I would do here is first let me add it, and then let me go edit this. See, this is kind of, this size is kind of a little big for that tip. Let's make it a little smaller so it just gets that tip. So again, if the tooth was smaller, I'd go even smaller. So that's how you start. Now let's think about this. This most likely is not going to hold this tooth, so this is going to pull off, and then this will end up pancaking. So there's a couple ways we can do this. We need to add more support. So what we can do is we could add on the front like this, and that will help a lot, but it's also going to be a little bit more visible. So you could do this, and that's fine. or what you could do is you could just go over to this one. Let's move it so it angles with the tooth a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click. And what I'm going to do is, I don't need it to be nearly as big. It's just helper support, but it's going to stabilize the tooth and really help it as it goes up. So now we've got a tooth like this. It'll definitely print and come out nice. You could just give one very light sanding here would take care of this. The ones on the back, the same thing, or since you won't see them, you don't have to do it. And now you've got a tooth that's going to maintain the tip and yet still print out. Now, if I don't want these ones in the front, what I could also do is come to this side, and one of the supports that say is supporting a tooth here, I could then double click and hide some more helpers back here to ensure that these teeth print out perfectly. And from here I would just do this, because you've got supports that are going to be hidden in the mouth where really it's going to be almost impossible to see them, but these are going to help these teeth. And you would just do that literally from this side for each tooth, right, just to help it along. And then you would come to this side and do it for the teeth on this side. So what we get here, sorry, my computer just jumped. So what we get here is teeth that instead of just one support trying to hold the tooth, which is the traditional way of supporting teeth, you end up with a ton of supports, really light ones, that won't leave marks, supporting the teeth. And even on a small tooth, right, like this one or even smaller, let's say instead of a dragon we're doing a tiny little figure, this might be a tiny little point. So this, if it was really thin, I might reduce this to even just whatever matches the point of the tooth, like 0.1, maybe even like a 0.15. And then if the tooth was small, these helper supports I'd also make like 0.15. So if it was a tiny little tooth, I would just do the same thing, just with much thinner supports, and it would support those teeth perfectly. And you just have to carefully place them, make sure when you go across, you're not intersecting the tongue or the lower teeth or anything where, like in this area, if you got too close, like if this was down a little more, it would bond to the tooth. You want to avoid that, so you want to make sure you're staying high enough that doesn't happen. So you just have to be careful of your angles, but you can support the teeth in an open mouth, usually from behind or from the side in these angles in here. Like I could even come from here if I want to support, let's say this big front fang on the other side. I could do it from here, and I could come and just fully support it and make sure it doesn't fail. So we would have one big one down here, but then from the sides and from the back, I would support this one. I might even, from this side, give it some more help. And then boom, you've now got a fang. Once I drop the main one here, let's see, drop my main one. You have now got a tooth that's really nicely supported. And even here, to preserve the tip better, I could even go down to 30 because 0.3, because I've got help. So as soon as it gets up to here, it's got help here. As soon as it gets up a little higher, it's got help here and here. So as this tooth prints, it's got a lot of help for the main support. And that's the way, and again, this works on tiny little models. You just make these things, you just, on a small model, you just cut that down to 0.15. Right? So you could do tiny, you could see if this tooth was tiny, you could still do this method. This would say be very tiny, maybe even down to 0.1 if the tooth was small enough, and then you just come and support right behind it. So if you do your teeth like this, you will get perfectly printed teeth. And that's it. That's the tip for today. So lots of tiny little supports are good for teeth. You can find a way to sneak them in Lychee. It's even easier to manipulate the supports around, so you can definitely use this in Lychee as well. Works perfectly in Lychee. So that's the tip for today. Perfect teeth. I want to see them on all your prints, guys. So hope this helps you guys. Thanks, and happy 3D printing.